have cheeseburger, please? Cheeseburger.
This is mycorelic. Mycorelic is a cooperative third-person action RPG developed by Sandy Dingo Games. You play as a fungal robot born on a mysterious island only to wander through the ruins of a failed civilization. On this journey, you'll experience the growth of a new fungal world, discovering ruins in varying biomes, and experiencing the lost histories of the island's inhabitants. In this game, you'll have to arm yourself with scraps found all around the island, such as armor, weapons, and parts to enhance your character. If you ever find yourself wanting to do multiple builds without restarting the game, you're in luck. mycorelic offers classless gameplay, meaning you can combine any type of armor or weapon you want to invent a playstyle that works for you. If any of this intrigues you, this game might be for you. But enough of me talking, and without further ado, this is my mycorelic review.
Keep in mind, this is only a demo release for mycorelic. By the time this video comes out, there will probably be plenty of bug fixes and additional content added to the newest versions. This video is purely my own opinion, so don't take these criticisms to heart. Sandy Dingo Games is an incredibly small studio, and I still hold a lot of respect for their aspirations, and I wish them all the best. Right off the bat, mycorelic is alright. It's just alright. I mean, it isn't necessarily a bad game. In fact, I enjoyed playing it, especially in co-op mode. There are a few things that I didn't like about it, but there's also a lot of things that I did like. For starters, the game is super beginner friendly. Most enemies aren't too hard to defeat, and acquiring new equipment to defeat these enemies isn't hard either. For example, I was trying to reach this castle that had a purplish light, and it was pretty tough considering the amount of enemies there were. But luckily, there was a lot of scrap piles and chests tucked in houses and the ancient ruins. From there, I was able to gain a considerable amount of equipment and was able to kill the enemies a lot easier than I would have without it. For the most part, the enemies had a pretty simple attack pattern, making it really easy to adapt. It's not to say that the game isn't challenging, but if you have experience with these type of games, you won't really die too often. Though the game lacks in variety of enemies, it does well to indicate which enemies are stronger and unique. This is done through armor design and whatever parts the enemies use. Your ordinary robotic mushrooms would probably be wearing this. The tougher enemies would be wearing something like this, or this, or this. You get the picture. Circling back to my previous statement, progression isn't locked by level requirements. What I found was that there were some shrines that gave you small buffs in exchange for levels, but it wasn't game changing. It was more like an extra one-up for players to combat against the enemies. Armor and weapons didn't require any levels or certain stats to equip, and normally this would be bad. However, the game was purely PvE focused, and wearing strong equipment didn't take away from the fun factors. Though the enemy AI was kind of janky and outright didn't work in some parts of the game, it was fun. I was playing co-op, so we had to experiment with different abilities and create maximum builds to the extent that the demo would give us. This game didn't exactly nail combat and integration of builds as well as I thought it would, and here's why. In the demo version, mycorelic didn't exactly have the best cast of weapons and armor, which is fine of course because it's a demo, but from what I could tell, weapons and armor kind of nudge you towards sticking to a similar path. Though the game expresses you can mix armor sets, it doesn't really feel like you should. If you were to ask how I would fix it, maybe I would add items that have mixed stats, like a magic bow that utilizes mycology and dexterity, or a weapon with a built-in dual-wield system that allows for both uses of range and torque. Aside from that, the combat in the game is fine, but I think it could use a little bit more indicators and potentially more movesets for the weapons. Spells in the game were kind of lackluster and seemed like a letdown. The magic projectiles acted like a bow, and it felt as though mage weapons had trouble differentiating themselves from ranger weapons. Though I did enjoy the staff, it was definitely harder to aim than the bow. Unlike the bow, the staff didn't have an indicator on where it was going to fire. The only real indication was the special ability each staff had when casting. The special ability would create a circle indicator wherever your mouse was, and this was good. But one other problem I found with the mage was that there was hardly any spirit charges to use spells. I know that the ruins often have ghosts that drop spirit charges along with the swamps that summon flying enemies, but I feel like there should be some sort of item in the game that gives spirit recovery. I do also know that this kind of conflicts with the ruins, considering that you have to gain charges to open some ruins, so maybe add a separate bar for mana.
So, would I recommend purchasing this game? Not really. This game is a really interesting concept, but as things are now, I'll only ask that you do your own research into the game before purchasing it. It really isn't fair that I judge the game based off of an unfinished product, so in the future I plan on playing the game to give my full honest opinion. Maybe then I might change my answer on whether or not I'll recommend this game, but for now, no. The game is set to release on Steam sometime in 2025. If you want to support their studio, you should wishlist their game on Steam. And as always, which is now because this is my first video, see you next time?